Howdy everyone, welcome back to Wobble and Jaw Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Over halfway through every team in this Overlook series, and we land on the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks here today. And it all kicks off this week. Oh man, it's so exciting. Anyways, the Sharks pre-season challenge is as follows. On Saturday afternoon at approximately 2:45 or 1:45 I should say, they take on the Newcastle Knights from Industry Group Stadium up at Gosford. And then on Friday night footy in week 2 of the pre-season challenge, they take on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs at Belmore, and they've been selected to be the home side at Belmore to take on the Bulldogs as well. So that's their pre-season challenge against the Knights and the Bulldogs. Section 1 for 2024 for the Sharks looks like this. In round number 1, they are away to the New Zealand Warriors at Go Media Stadium. Friday night footy, 6 p.m. kickoff here in Australia. That is a fantastic way to kick off Friday night footy for 2024. Round number 2, they have their first game at PointsBet Stadium for the year. They host the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs at the same time slot of Friday, 6 p.m. Round number 3, they're out at Leichhardt Oval to take on the West Tigers. That will be their first Leichhardt Oval game. That is Saturday night football. Round number 4, it's Easter weekend, and they've been selected to play Sunday twilight football that weekend. Round number 4 against the Canberra Raiders at PointsBet Stadium. And in round number 5, they have their first bye for 2024. Strength of opposition, they're taking on the Tigers and the Bulldogs inside the first 5 weeks. They do have a trip out to New Zealand in round number 1. That is tough as guts. And the Raiders could be anything come round number 4. They could be absolutely anything. So yeah, all in all, while there is a trip out to New Zealand, that's a pretty decent way to start the season for the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks. Section 2 starts at Accor Stadium, Saturday night football against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Sharks coming fresh off of the bye as well. And now that we know Campbell Graham and Tyrone Munro will be out of this clash due to injury, it definitely looks like a possible victory here for the Sharkies. Round number 7, Sunday afternoon football, Channel 9 game. They host the North Queensland Cowboys. Hopefully it's a hell of a lot better match than the one that was played at PointsBet Stadium last year. If you know, you know. Sunday afternoon football again 1 week later in round number 8. This time they're down at GIO Stadium to take on the Canberra Raiders, the Raiders versus the Sharks. The first derby, this great Southern Derby as I think it's affectionately known as. It's still again a Channel 9 Sunday afternoon football time slot for the Sharks. That's 3 in a row, which is great. They take on the Dragons at PointsBet Stadium. And to round out their second section for 2024, they take on the Melbourne Storm down at Amy Park, Saturday night footy. So far as strength of opposition goes, it's certainly a lot more difficult than their first phase. They have the 3 trips away from home as well inside this 5-week block, including the big one down at Amy Park. In their home games, the one against the Dragons, you would lean towards Cowboys. Hopefully, if they've got their fighting boots on this year round, that will be the sternest test for them at home inside Section 2. Just like everybody else, Magic Round kicks off Phase 3 for the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks. This time, they are the home side. They are hosting the Eastern Suburbs at Suncorp Stadium, a Saturday night fixture, Saturday 5:30, I should say. 7 days later, still Saturday 5:30, the same time slot, they host the Penrith Panthers. So that was, even though Sharks have been selected as the home side for Magic Round, that is back-to-back weeks where they're on the road. It's Amy Park and then a trip up to Suncorp, and then they're back home to take on the Penrith Panthers at Saturday 5:30 p.m. That's a big one. Thursday night football is their next matchup in round 13, so that's a little bit of a short turnaround. They're taking on the Parramatta Eels on Thursday night football, and I think that game will be an Origin affected contest. Round number 14, they're back up at Suncorp Stadium to take on the Brisbane Broncos, and again, that could be Origin affected, but it will be days after State of Origin, I think game number 2 or game number 1 even, and that's Saturday 7:30 p.m. And in round 15, Thursday night football, another short-ish turnaround, this time coming from Suncorp to play at home on Thursday night football against the Dolphins, Channel 9, out there at PointsBet Stadium. So that is definitely the most difficult section for the Sharks, and we're going to learn, that's where we're going to learn everything that we need to know, I think, about the Sharkies in that 5-week stretch. Roosters, Panthers, Eels, Broncos and Dolphins. Yeah, that's where the rubber begins to meet the road, I think, for the Sharkies. Phase number 4 for the Sharkies starts with their second bye of the year. Then they are away to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs for Friday night football, Channel 9 game at Accor Stadium. 7 days later, again on Friday night footy, but this time the 6 p.m. time slot, they take a game up to Coffs Harbour to take on the Gold Coast Titans. Round number 19, again Friday night football, and this one is the Channel 9 game. They take on the West Tigers, and in round 20, they have their third and final bye inside phase number 4. So the strength of opposition there for the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks, you've got the Bulldogs, Titans and the Tigers, and 2 byes thrown in there as well. That, with all due respect to those 3 teams, that would be a time where you sort of take things a hell of a lot easier on those Origin representatives. But yeah, that is probably, with all due respect, that is probably the easiest part of their season so far, which comes rather timely as well, being that Section 3 has been, or looks like to be, the most difficult part of their year. No more byes, there is no more State of Origin. It is a time where they're coming off the bye, so from round 21 through to round 27, it is all systems go. It is the highest gear for the Cronulla Sharks. How does their run to the finals look? Well, it starts with a Saturday 5:30 game away from home up in Townsville against one of their biggest rivals in the North Queensland Cowboys. 7 days later, they host the South Sydney Rabbitohs at PointsBet Stadium, Saturday 7:30 p.m. They're then back up to Queensland, so that makes it their 4th trip to Queensland in 2024. They take on the Gold Coast Titans Friday 6 p.m. up there at the Gold Coast. Round 24, they're back at home against the Newcastle Knights, so a nice long 8-day turnaround, 8 or 9 day turnaround. They host the Newcastle Knights, Channel 9 Sunday afternoon footy. In the exact same time slot, 7 days later, in round number 25, they zip down to Wynn Stadium for the second edition for 2024 of the Great Southern Derby against the St George Illawarra Dragons. Round number 26 is their final home game for the regular season. It is Saturday night football. They host the New Zealand Warriors, and that is the Channel 9 Saturday night football game. And if it's anything like the previous contest last year at PointsBet Stadium, we're in for one of the games of the season. Their final game for 2024 is an away game against Manly. Sunday 2 p.m. It is the last day of the regular season. It will be the second last match of the regular season, and just the vibe I'm getting from Manly, I think they're going to be in top 8 calculations up to their eyeballs, and I think the same can be said for the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks as well. So that could be, maybe not for all the marbles, but it could be for a hell of a lot of them. So for the strength of opposition, man, they take on Cowboys, Rabbits, Titans, Knights, Dragons, Warriors and Manly. I don't think that's an easy run at all, and I know they only take on the Panthers, the Broncos just the one time. They do take on the Dragons and the Tigers twice, same with the Bulldogs, so I understand people's train of thought where they think it's an easier draw, I should say, for the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks, but that run to the finals, man, if they want to make the top 8, they're going to have to really earn it. There's 2 trips to Queensland inside that section. There's that away game at 4 Pines Park to Manly, and even though the Sharkies have had their measure over the past couple of years, overall, Brookvale is still their enemy big time. The Seagulls still dominate that fixture, and then obviously you've got the home game against the Warriors in the second last week of the season as well. So I don't think that's their hardest section of the year. I definitely think that section 3 is where Sharkies really need to show what they're made of. I think that is the time of year where we're going to find out a lot about the Sharks, but this run to the finals, that's not easy. No draw, no fixture is easy in the NRL. And again, I know that everyone thinks that because they're taking on the Dragons, the Bulldogs and the Tigers on twice, and not the Broncos and the Panthers, they think the Sharks have got an easy draw. That's a tricky run home to the finals, man. So I don't think that's the easiest draw that I've seen so far. I definitely think it's on the lower end of the scale, if I'm being honest, but that's how the Sharkies look. You can only beat what's in front of you. So thank you very much for your continuous support, guys. Hope you're enjoying it, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios.